There is an old idea in American life that in times of national sacrifice, the burden should be shared. That's when the country asks something of its people and its leaders set the example. Franklin Roosevelt gave up his presidential yacht after Pearl Harbor as a gesture of wartime sacrifice. Jimmy Carter famously turned down the White House thermostats and wore a cardigan during the 1970s energy crisis. During World War II, rationing applied to everyone, including the powerful. Gasoline, meat, butter, sugar, nylon, all rationed by coupon book, regardless of wealth or status. Hollywood stars enlisted. Clark Gable, seen here, served in the U.S. Army Air Force. Jimmy Stewart flew combat missions over Germany. Henry Fonda joined the Navy. Eleanor Roosevelt planted a victory garden on the White House lawn and served hot dogs to the King and Queen of England as a wartime gesture of simplicity. The idea was, if you are asking citizens to sacrifice, you sacrifice too. That's a very different reality from the one we're witnessing today. Today, the president asks Americans to tighten their belts while offering little of value himself. To be fair, he's contributed something, including shirtless AI selfies, midnight meltdowns, and thousands of unhinged Truth Social posts. While working Americans absorb the cost of this president's trade war and his war of choice in Iran, the people around Trump, those on the friends and family plan, appear to be doing quite well. Just this week, a sweeping New York Times investigation reported that FBI Director Kash Patel has continued to use FBI aircraft for personal outings involving his girlfriend, who lives in Nashville. As an FBI director, Patel has to fly private. He's supposed to reimburse the cost of a coach ticket for any personal travel. The report details taxpayer-funded flights, overtime costs for FBI personnel, and security expenditures tied to those trips, including a government jet flight to a country music concert in Philadelphia, where agents reportedly waited late into the night on overtime before flying the couple back to Virginia. According to the reporting, her personal security detail in Nashville alone, 4 agents and 2 SUVs, cost taxpayers roughly $1 million a year, and that's before overtime. Both Patel and his girlfriend deny doing anything improper, but as former FBI special agent and MS Now contributor Rob D'Amico put it, the badge is a responsibility, not a VIP pass. It's worth recalling that in 2023, Kash Patel said this of the then FBI director, Christopher Wray.
I'm just saying Chris Wray doesn't need a government-funded G5 jet to go to vacation. Maybe we ground that plane. $15,000 every time it takes off. Just a thought.
Maybe indeed. Patel is hardly alone, by the way. Shortly after leaving the White House, after Trump's first term, Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law, secured a $2 billion investment for his private equity firm from a Saudi sovereign wealth fund, which was headed by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. It was a deal that raised immediate questions about what exactly the Saudis were getting in return for that investment, according to multiple news outlets, including the New York Times. He has since received additional investment from Qatar, according to Times reporting. And it's noteworthy that Kushner, who raised $2 billion from his fund, had absolutely zero professional investment experience prior to forming his brand new company, Affinity Partners. Well, he's resurfaced as Trump's peace envoy in the Middle East. Although he's not officially a government employee, he's apparently a volunteer. He insists he's doing it all as a private citizen and not as an administration official. But a recent analysis of public records and filings by the nonpartisan watchdog group Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, CREW for short, found that of the 23 cabinet members reviewed, 20 have directed money to benefit Donald Trump personally through political contributions, spending at Trump-owned properties, stock holdings in Trump businesses, and direct donations to his inauguration fund and that White House ballroom project. In fact, only 3 cabinet members have not. The Education Secretary, Linda McMahon, poured at least $20 million into Trump-aligned super PACs. The Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, contributed more than $10 million to Trump campaign super PACs. But the report shows that multiple cabinet members also made donations directly to Trump's White House ballroom project, the same project that Trump guaranteed would not cost us, taxpayers, a single dime. Congress is now being asked to approve $220 million in taxpayer funding for ballroom security specifically, and $1 billion in total for security upgrades. Even some Republicans are pushing back. The Maine Senator, Susan Collins, says Trump made a promise, private money only. Florida Senator Rick Scott looked at the bill and said, quote, we're $39 trillion in debt. Maybe we ought to stop spending money. Trump is asking Americans to be patient. He's asking you to absorb the pain of a trade war that he started, a war in Iran that he chose or was duped into by Benjamin Netanyahu, and an economy rattled by his own policy decisions. That ballroom no one wanted, and that nobody gave Trump permission to destroy parts of the East Wing to build, you and I were never going to be invited to that ballroom, but at least we weren't going to have to pay for it. Or so we were told. But after a gunman got through security at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the response was not to discuss guns. It was to argue for a more secure ballroom that you and I are still never going to go into, with $1 billion price tag. And that's not all that Trump wants. There's the arch. An actual triumphal arch to be built between the Lincoln Memorial and the Arlington Cemetery. I'm doing this because it's stupid, just like the arch. Styled after the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, which is lovely. Estimated cost, $100 million. Nobody asked for this. Nobody needs this. The famed Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool, apparently in need of regular maintenance, but now being painted something called American Flag Blue, awarded on a no-bid contract to a vendor that Donald Trump selected himself because apparently the same guy had worked on his swimming pools at his golf clubs.
I said, you know, Doug, I have a guy who's unbelievable at doing swimming pools. I said, what we're going to do is I'm going to call all three of these people that have worked for me in the past doing swimming pools. That's all they can do is a swimming pool. So I called people that do swimming pools, and I said, go take a look at it. I said, do me a favor, fellas. Go take a look at the reflecting pool. I said, give me a good price. It will cost about $1.5 million. We're going to be able to do it for about $1.8 million, $1.8 million. I said, how much will it cost? I think we can do it for about $1.9 million. We can do it for maybe $1.5 million to $2 million. We did it for a couple of $1 million.
Notice how the prices kept going up, and notice how he kept reflecting. He kept talking about, I keep calling it the reflecting pool. He kept reflecting that the people who were going to paint this reflecting pool were people who had worked on his pools. 3 guys, he was going to call them. So it might be a good moment to point out that the reflecting pool, which he often refers to as the reflecting pond, bears very little resemblance to a regular swimming pool. And maybe we needed a contractor who had actually done that scale of work before. That little renovation, by the way, that once again, like the arch and like the ballroom, no one asked for, was supposed to cost maybe $1.5 million. But federal records show the project has already cost, and I really do hope you're sitting down for this, because it's your money, $13 million. It's not just the cost of how this went up that's alarming. It's how the contract was awarded. Under federal law, government contracts are supposed to be competitive. Multi-companies submit bids. The government picks the best value for the taxpayers. That process exists for 2 reasons: to guarantee the quality of the work performed and to prevent officials from handing public money to their friends. Trump administration just bypassed the process entirely, invoking an exemption that was meant for genuine emergencies, which is kind of what he does for everything these days. As contracting law professor Jessica Tillotman put it, the government cannot create its own urgency. Here's the kicker, by the way. Experts say the paint job in that reflecting pool doesn't even fix the pool's actual problems, which is faulty plumbing. The algae, they warn, will likely come back anyway, and as of this week, less than a quarter of the pool's actually been painted. It's still mostly gray. The blue appears mottled and of different shades, and apparently there are little bubbles in it. It's not been done properly for $13 million of your taxpayer dollars. Rather than show the public the real progress, Trump posted a digitally manipulated image of himself. Rubio, Vance, Doug. This is the Doug he keeps talking about. He's the Interior Secretary. Who's this? I don't know. They've made a picture, an AI picture of themselves floating in the completed reflecting pool. Job's not done, but there's a nice picture of it. He also drove his motorcade directly across the pool's surface for a press event, potentially damaging the newly repaired joints underneath. And experts now say that an immediate inspection of that is now warranted. And when this project drew scrutiny this week, Trump did what Trump always does, walked away from it. He now claims he didn't give out the contract and that the Department of the Interior awarded the contract to a contractor I did not know and have never used before. So let me just run this through with you again. You and I paid $13 million for a pool that he calls a pond, that is barely painted, won't stay clean, and has plumbing problems, and whose greatest achievement so far is that it played host to a fake photo of shirtless Donald Trump on social media. I'm not done. A statue garden along the Potomac River featuring 250 life-size figures with amphitheaters, reflecting pools, cafes, and plazas. The price tag for that is $40 million and climbing. Perhaps nice, but most Americans would probably prefer lower prices and health care subsidies. They're also repainting the Eisenhower Executive Office Building. That's the large office building that's right next to the White House that houses much of the White House staff and the executive offices, because Trump would like that building painted white to match the White House that is next to it. Cost of painting that building, $7.5 million of, again, I want to be clear, fine-looking building. It just doesn't happen to be white. $7.5 million of your taxpayer dollars. Total estimated cost of all of these Trump vanity projects, well over $1 billion and counting. These are not investments in roads or bridges or the electrical grid or the manufacturing base. They are not strengthening the country. They are monuments to one man's sense of grandeur. As Thom Hartmann puts it, quote, authoritarians throughout history have always understood and exploited the power of spectacle. Palaces, towers, gold, giant halls, arches, statues of themselves. Spectacle being built on your dime while he asks American workers to sacrifice. And sacrifice you are. Trump's budget takes a chainsaw to the programs that working Americans depend on. Food assistance for new mothers and children, energy bills to help the elderly on fixed incomes, affordable housing programs, small business grants for rural communities, cut, eliminated entirely in the name of fiscal responsibility, in the name of fixing a budget that is too big, a deficit that is too deep. The wealthy, meanwhile, are doing just fine. Homeowners, stockholders, top earners are benefiting from tax cuts that represent the largest upward transfer of wealth in American history. Rising stock prices and house prices. The rich are doing fine. The pain of this economy is not being shared equally. It is being directed downward. Thom Hartmann, who joins us next, has been writing about this for years. Quote, he brags about corruption, lives on corruption, and treats every lever of the federal government as a personal slot machine. Trump rode to power twice by yelling, drain the swamp, loud enough to convince the American public that he, a New York City real estate tycoon and reality star, was the outsider fighting a corrupt establishment. As Thom Hartmann puts it, he isn't fighting it. He is it.